Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Payne, and today I will be discussing the environmental hazards of chrome tanning, a process involved in the making of leather in Ranipet, India. The main purpose of the next several slides is to discuss the scale of the leather industry in India and the small towns that experience the toxic effects from the use of chromium in the production of leather. Ranipet, a medium-sized town in southern India, has been particularly affected after chromium waste was dumped on open land 25 years ago when a factory that produced chromium salts shut down. Today I will cover an overview of India's leather industry, tanning and chromium, the role of Ranipet in chromium pollution, exposure pathways and toxic effects of chromium, and Ranipet in the year 2020. India itself is home to more than 2,000 tanneries that produce more than 2 billion square feet of leather every year. The country produces 12.9% of the world's leather, making it one of the world's largest exporters of the material. The industry is responsible for 9% of the world's footwear production, worth 2.6 billion US dollars in exports. It also accounts for 429 million US dollars in leather garments exports and 524 million US dollars in finished leather exports. The industry employs more than 4 million people, 30% of whom are women and 35% of whom are below the age of 35. The majority of the leather tanneries are located in the states of Kolkata and Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is responsible for 60 to 70% of India's total leather production, and it is here that the town of Ranipet is located. Ranipet is a town that is situated along the northern bank of the Palar River and it's located about 62 miles from Chennai city, which is the fourth largest urban area in India. Tanning is a process involved in the production of leather. It is the main operation during which the protein structure of animal skins and hides is permanently altered, making it more durable and resistant to decomposition. There are different types of tanning, but chrome tanning is the most commonly used process. It uses trivalent chromium sulfate or salts, which is considered to be the most effective and efficient tanning agent. Chromium is an odorless and tasteless metallic element. It is found both anthropogenically as well as naturally in rocks, plants, soil, and volcanic dust in animals. There are multiple forms of chromium, but the two most common are trivalent chromium and hexavalent chromium. Trivalent chromium occurs naturally in the environment and is an essential human dietary element that is found in many vegetables, fruits, meats, grains, and yeast. It promotes the action of insulin so that the body can metabolize sugars, proteins, and fats. In contrast, hexavalent chromium is almost totally derived from human activities. It is toxic and a known human carcinogen. Although trivalent chromium is usually non-toxic, it can alter into its more harmful form of hexavalent chromium through changes in pH or oxidation state. In 1971, State Industries Promotion Corporation of Tamil Nadu, or SIPCOT, was formed to promote industrial growth within the state. To date, SIPCOT has developed 21 industrial complexes in 12 districts or towns throughout the state of Tamil Nadu. SIPCOT chose Ranipet, as well as its neighboring towns including Vellore, to build Industrial Complex Number 25, and in 1975, Tamil Nadu Chromates and Chemicals Limited, or TCCL, factory was opened in the complex to manufacture chromium salts for the locally thriving leather industry. 20 years later, in 1995, the factory shut down and left behind over 250,000 U.S. tons of both trivalent and hexavalent chromium sludge. Rather than safely disposing of or containing the toxic chromium sludge, it was dumped in an open area behind the factory, where it has been leaching into the ground ever since, causing heavy contamination in the surrounding land, soil, and groundwater. Standards for chromium levels in water are set by numerous governmental and health agencies around the world. For comparison, both the World Health Organization and the India Standard for Total Chromium, which includes both trivalent chromium and hexavalent chromium, is 0.05 milligrams per liter. For hexavalent chromium alone, the WHO and IS standard are both 0.05 milligrams per liter. In the United States, however, although the EPA has a standard for total chromium of 0.1 milligrams per liter, it includes hexavalent chromium in the total, and it does not regulate levels of hexavalent chromium separately. To illustrate the extremely high levels of chromium toxicity on the TCCL premises and just how far the contamination has spread to the surrounding areas, groundwater samples were tested in 2018 and measured for total chromium and hexavalent chromium. 25 locations labeled M and their respective numbers were sampled and are shown on this map. Note the TCCL boundary shaded in red and the nearby bodies of water in blue. 8 of these locations circled in red measured both total chromium and hexavalent chromium levels well above the 0.05 milligram per liter standards, as is shown in this bar graph. When humans are exposed to hexavalent chromium, they can experience a number of health effects which vary depending on the exposure route. The 2 most common exposure routes of chromium are through the inhalation of dust or fumes and the ingestion of or dermal contact with the dust or contaminated water. For tannery workers, both the inhalation of chromium and dermal contact are common, though through inhalation, respiratory illnesses, including lung cancer and tuberculosis, can develop, as well as eye damage, ulcerations, swelling, asthmatic bronchitis, and irritation of the nose and throat. Through dermal contact, numerous skin problems can develop, such as discoloration of the skin, rashes, sores, and ulcers. Most of the work inside the tanneries is performed by hand by workers who are not properly protected or educated on the harmful side effects of chromium exposure. Lung cancer, including tracheal, bronchus, and lung, has risen to the second most common incident cancer in India among males in 2016. Lung cancer was also the first or second leading cause of cancer deaths in 19 states for males and in 4 states for females in 2016. In Tamil Nadu specifically, lung cancer was the #1 leading cause of cancer deaths for males and 6th for females. Although not necessarily causally related to the toxic effects of chromium, tobacco use and air pollution, which could include chromium dust, were the leading risk factors in the global burden of disease for lung cancer in India that year. The chromium sludge has not just affected human health, though. It has also had devastating consequences on the environment. The solid chromium waste that was dumped at the TCCL site in Ranipet has made its way into the surface water, where the chromium toxins have been carried downstream. The Geological Survey of India has reported that hexavalent chromium has spread in the southern district up to a distance of 1.2 to 1.6 miles, and it has affected 20 villages around the TCCL factory site. Additionally, 5 major lakes have been contaminated to the extent that the water can no longer be used. Some communities, however, continue to use the water for bathing, washing laundry, cooking, swimming, and food sources like fish. The contaminated water has also entered local farmland, poisoning the soil. According to the Farmers Association, 600 acres of agricultural land have been rendered barren, prohibiting the growth of crops. Additionally, the chromium waste has polluted the drinking water supply for nearby communities by seeping into the soil and contaminating the groundwater. 25 years after the TCCL factory closed, Ranipet is still waiting for remediation and cleanup. The total cost for safe disposal of the sludge and decontamination of the heavily polluted groundwater, which would be a complicated multi-step process and could take up to 10 years to complete, would cost nearly $70 million. Perhaps the bigger question, however, is who will pay for the cleanup, as TCCL changed private ownerships over the years, and authorities have not been able to trace the responsible parties. In summary, the leather industry has been a great economic success for India, but it has come at an extraordinary environmental and human cost to Ranipet and other towns like it. When chromium sludge and wastewater are dumped on open land and not properly or safely disposed of, the toxins leach into the ground, polluting the groundwater and surrounding land. When humans are exposed to the chromium toxins, they can experience numerous devastating health consequences, including lung cancer, kidney and liver damage, and a number of respiratory and skin ailments. The cost of cleanup and decontamination is a heavy burden, and 25 years after the TCCL factory closed, Ranipet continues to wait for remediation.